6 months ago, we told you about an alliance that's taking shape. CHIMS, China, Iran, Moscow, Saudi Arabia. And over the last 48 hours, we've seen developments which confirm that new equations have been established with long-term strategic consequences. CHIMS, China, Iran, Moscow, Saudi Arabia with the UAE in close strategic formation. The allies also now form a ring around the oil-rich Caspian. Azerbaijan on the western coast of the Caspian could become the next partner, securing Russia's southern frontiers. The beginning may have been on some ambitious planning board for a while, but the world was witness to a dramatic beginning when Beijing early this year brokered Saudi Arabia and Iran's diplomatic relations. American policy, which since the Iran Revolution in 1979 has centered around a confrontation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, was left in scattered pieces, to say the least. Washington could not hide its shock, and since then has been trying to patch together these pieces. Now, you see, Moscow has stepped forward to seal its part of the deal. The Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has preferred to stay in his own country ever since the International Criminal Court, remember, issued orders for his arrest on the charge of kidnapping Ukrainian children to Russia during the war, has stepped out of Russia to visit the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Remember, neither Putin nor Xi came to Delhi for the G20. It was the second time, in fact, that Putin had cancelled a visit to India. Putin has left Russia only twice since the Ukraine war started. And yesterday, he received a royal welcome. The first country on his roster, the UAE, Abu Dhabi, rolled out the carpet for him. And how? Putin was greeted with jets, horses, camels and flags. His plane was flanked by four Sukhoi 35 fighter jets as he arrived there for the COP28 climate talks. His limousine drone through the grounds of the sprawling palace, flanked by camels and horses with soldiers holding the Russian flag. Emirati military jets drew the Russian tricolour in the skies. He received a 21-gun salute. This unusual trip abroad for the Russian president was supposed to be a great show of support between the two countries at a time when the Ukraine war has forced the world to pick sides. The UAE president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, welcomed his quote-unquote dear friend to Abu Dhabi. The two leaders last met in June at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, where the UAE head of state was the guest of honor. And during their talks, the two leaders discussed a mutually beneficial bilateral future and a strategic partnership. Putin pointed out that relations between Moscow and Abu Dhabi had reached an unprecedentedly high level. He described the UAE, in fact, as Russia's largest trading partner in the Arab world. Putin said that the two countries are actively expanding industrial cooperation while being involved in several major joint oil and gas ventures. The leader of Russia and the UAE, they also talked about the war in Gaza. They talked about the need to work towards permanent peace in the Israel-Palestine conflict. And yes, the other war, of course, the one in Ukraine, also featured in their talks. And after the UAE, Putin went to Saudi Arabia. He met with the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Discussions in Riyadh also touched on the topic of oil, the war in Ukraine, and the war in Gaza. Putin told the Saudi Crown Prince that he expects to see him in Moscow soon. Quote unquote, nothing can hinder the development of our friendly ties. That's what he told MBS. Remember, they are all part of the oil cartel consisting of 13 of the world's major oil exporting countries known as OPEC+. We can be absolutely certain that President Xi in Beijing, the closest contemporary ally of Putin, was watching this show with a quiet smile of great satisfaction. And since the war in Ukraine started, leading the West to impose harsh economic sanctions on Moscow, the UAE emerged as Russia's key trade partner. And earlier this year, OPEC Plus decided to cut oil output, which had far-reaching consequences, by the way, for US gas prices. And when they met on Thursday, Putin and MBS called on all OPEC Plus members to join an agreement on oil output cuts. In October, Putin was invited by dear friend Xi Jinping for China's third BRI forum. Their ties, you see, are thriving despite Western criticism or the ICC arrest warrant. In fact, China says it has the right to collaborate with whichever country it chooses, and trade between the two countries soared since the war. Nothing can sever this bond, much to the dismay of the US, of course. But this is not the conclusion. Another nation enters the fray, further cementing this alliance while America and its allies watch helplessly. Iran. That's right. Today, the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi visits Russia, officially invited by Putin. The focal points of discussion during Raisi's single-day visit will include the expansion of economic ties between Iran and Russia. Now, beyond economics, regional concerns such as the Gaza conflict will undoubtedly be high on their agenda. The meeting with the Iranian leader follows a day after Putin's visit to West Asia. Since the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has turned to Iran for weapons, with Iranian drones on top of that shopping list. They have helped turn the tide of the war in Russia's favor. This is addressed by economic partnerships, as both nations confront a cascade of sanctions led by the US and its allies. This year, China made its presence felt in West Asia. Just last week, the UAE and China, in fact, inked a multi-billion-dollar deal. Before that, Beijing hosted foreign ministers from 4 Arab countries to discuss ending the Israel-Hamas war. It all started last year when Xi Jinping visited Riyadh in what was termed as a crucial visit. It was the biggest diplomatic initiative in the Arab world, in fact. It showed Saudi Arabia's intention to expand global alliances beyond a long-standing partnership with the West. It was the coming together of a global economic powerhouse and the Gulf energy giant. It completes this axis of nations, influential not only in their neighborhood, but also across the world. CHIMS is an axis that is ready to curb America's sole superpower status and dominance. Equally important, Iran is also at the hub of this geopolitical realignment. It is forging closer ties with Russia and China, hoping to ease its economic woes and build a powerful new axis of power, one that is capable of countering the US-led West. And let's not forget Iran's decision last year to sell armed suicide drones to Moscow to aid its war against Ukraine. All three say they face multiple threats, a sort of military as well as economic strangulation by the US and its friends. For Iran, the picture is clear. It has been at a virtual war with America for half a century after all, and most of the time alone. And today, it is part of a powerful alliance. Its isolation has been broken. We are calling CHIMS an important development in international relations because of its great ability to control the Asian scenario for the foreseeable future. And there's only one loser here, the United States of America. America may remain a superpower, but CHIMS could become a second military and economic strategic power. There is one collateral question. Has China filled the strategic vacuum in the Gulf left by India? We will leave that for you to ponder upon. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.